Hello, future challengers, or current challengers looking for ways to improve. This is the third in a series of videos about how to succeed in the Counterside ranked Gauntlet PVP mode. Last time, we covered team building basics. This time, we're going to talk about unit placement and deployment energy use, including some handy tricks you can use in your own battles. While having a good team composition and the right equipment is important, making sure you deploy them at the right time and in the right place is even more important. Luckily, one of my recent fights from last season actually provides a great example of what a difference good unit placement can make. This fight was against an Awakened Horizon rush team. They front deployed her at the start without ground units so that she can get to my ship faster, and my frontliners would run past her. So I immediately answered by front deploying a frontliner and having her chase it back to her own ship instead. If they drew one, they should have countered by sending a forward deployment unit like Kang to turn my frontliner around and let a Hori reach the ship. Instead, they dropped Awakened Mina to try and ship race me, expecting my entire front line was used up. I dropped Lily behind her, and when Lily takes some damage, she jumps backwards, which caused Awakened Mina to chase her back to the ship and secure my win. Der 1-2 deployment was unable to distract my frontliners from destroying the ship. So yeah, I think this whole fight highlights how important deployment timing and placement really is. Since we're already on the subject, let's talk about unit placement first. At the beginning of the match, how close you deploy your frontliner can sometimes have a big impact on how that match will go, and there are trade-offs for deploying further forward or back. Some units are great at pushing opposing units back towards their ship in order to clump the front line and back line together, opening the back line up to area damage. For teams built around that goal, deploying at the front is usually the right play. Horizon and Awakened Horizon are often the main duo to make these teams work, along with Ludmilla, due to the powerful knockback on her special. This can be countered with having high evasion frontliners who won't get knocked back when they pass an evasion check. Also, on weeks when the Lake Superior ship isn't banned, its ultimate skill, which causes enemy units to get pushed to the center of the map, will cause less disruption if you already control the center of the map. On the other hand, pushing into your opponent's side of the field from the start can pose serious risks to your own backline, since it'll be easier for your opponent to reach them with backline assassins or even Rafaela Jury, who actually deploys further ahead than where you can normally deploy units. Although most people build Jury to be tanky, she still has the potential to kill squishier backline units by herself with her AoE basic attack, in addition to isolating your frontline from your backline. So be very careful about overcommitting to an early push on weeks when she's unbanned, unless you're running durable backline units with larger health pools. Beyond your first unit, you want to make sure that you're not sending your backline out to instantly get killed or stunned. Awakened Jushiyun, for example, has a very long-range counterattack which prioritizes backline units. It's possible for a few units like Crystal Shaolin to stay outside of his range and attack at a safe distance, but it's easy, very easy, to misjudge and deploy right into it. Just bait out his first counter with your frontliner before deploying so you know exactly where you can deploy safely. The same goes for ultimates once the battle's been going on for a while. Pay attention to enemy purple bars and make sure you're not sending anything squishy out right before an ultimate goes off. That sounds obvious, but in the heat of the moment it's easy to lose focus, so try to check things like ultimate bar progress at times when things are more calm, so you know what's coming and when. Also, you may want to send out an additional defender before an enemy ultimate goes off in order to absorb valid hits and reduce its damage to your back line. We'll talk more about valid hits in future videos. Evasion too. There are some neat things you can do to take advantage of the game's AI when making your deployments. Since most units will follow whatever targetable enemy is closest to them, or the ship if that happens to be the closest target, You can use that to your advantage. If your opponent opens with a striker frontliner and you have Ludmilla in your starting hand, you can deploy her first, since she's an air unit with long range, and then deploy your own frontliner behind the enemy striker once they get close to your ship, making it harder for supporters and defenders to reach them and save them from Ludmilla's wrath. Some units have special passives which cause them to move backward when they take damage, and are guaranteed to survive any sort of attack at least once. Lily, Minestra, and Awakened Li Suyun are a few examples. These units can be deployed closer than what's normally safe because you know they'll back off when things get hot. And with Minestra in particular, you can use this to basically bait out her Spira summon if your front line is about to go down and you don't have another front line ready in your hand. You can also use paratrooper units, which can be deployed almost anywhere in the field, to turn an enemy around and prevent them from using a key ability against you. Spira can also be used for this purpose, but not as quickly as other options, so plan accordingly. Some good targets for this are Replacer King, who can't hit the entire map if he's punching backwards, Evolved One, who will fire her map-wide nuke in the wrong direction if your opponent has ultimates on auto, causing it to deal no damage to targets behind her, and Seo Yoon, whose healing reflux won't hit your front line if you turn her around before she fires it. Lots of current and future Maze Haste set attackers can potentially be baited like this too. Usually, tank set Rearmed or regular Kang, or tank set Ingrid, will be your unit of choice for this maneuver, although Ingrid isn't as popular as she used to be. Spira is a great option if you have some time, because once she reaches your opponent's backline, she is much tankier than others. These are a few basic deployment tricks, but there are definitely more creative uses for deployments out there, so feel free to share what you know of with the rest of us in the comments. Maybe we'll talk about them in a future video. The other thing I want to talk about is the deployment energy bar, and deciding how much of it to spend versus how much of it to save. Similarly to deciding how close you want to deploy at the start, deciding whether to spend your deployment energy quickly or to conserve it has significant trade-offs. On the one hand, being able to respond to your opponent's deployments and the changing tide of battle can give you a major tactical advantage in what is often a game of rock, paper, scissors. On the other hand, the sooner your units are on the field, the sooner they can start doing something. Both holding a unit too long and deploying it too early can sometimes cost you a match. Once you start feeling more comfortable with the chaos of the battlefield, then you can start trying to estimate your opponent's deployment energy and when and how they might respond to you. My settings guide episode should help you with this, but in the beginning you should focus on your own situation and find a rhythm that works for you. Generally, it's better to play reactively instead of proactively, unless you have an important goal like quickly killing a specific unit, or reaching your opponent's ship before the timer runs out. When you're able to plan for and effectively respond to what your opponents do, you'll be able to climb even if your equipment and unit roster isn't as strong as theirs. Whether you're a newer player, a lower spender, or free to play, there is a lot you can do to overcome the power gaps you'll face. The right settings, a good understanding of team building and gearing, as well as deployment placement and timing, can combine to give you a significant advantage in the ranked Gauntlet. I hope that once you've seen the first 3 episodes of this guide series, that you have a stronger grasp of these fundamentals, or at least have a better understanding of some niche mechanic or strategy if your fundamentals were already good and you decided to watch anyway. I have several more specific topics I want to cover in future guides, but I haven't decided on the order yet, and I'm sure there are more good ones that I haven't thought of. So, what ranked Gauntlet subject would you like me to tackle next? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a like, and subscribe to be notified when I release new guide episodes, or my weekly bans, ups, and team ideas series that I put out on Sundays. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.